Good evening, you beautiful recidivists. This is Press Start to Game, and today I'd like to talk to you about Mirror's Edge. This, as you can see now, is the 2008 original Mirror's Edge, which was developed by DICE and published by EA and came out on the PS3, Xbox 360 and the PC. It was unique in that it's a first-person parkour 'em up with some combat elements which were widely criticised, and perhaps rightly so, because they are a hindrance and they're not very well implemented. The story was written by Rihanna Tomb Raider Pratchett and focused on the protagonist Faith, who is tasked with rescuing her sister, who's been arrested on some trumped up charges by the Fuzz, and to uncover a conspiracy that could affect everyone living in the City of Glass. Now, in 2013 at E3, something amazing happened. Despite the original Mirror's Edge not being that well received and not selling that well, a sequel was announced, and here we are 3 years later. We are playing Mirror's Edge Catalyst. Isn't it pretty? Look how lovely it is. Now, sequel is entirely the wrong word to use, because it's not a sequel. Some of the characters have been copied over, some of the names have been copied over, and the city itself has been copied over, in name only. Design's completely different. But the game itself, the story itself, is what would be called a soft reboot, I suppose. Using some of the assets but telling a whole new story. It's not about rescuing your sister from jail anymore. In fact, in this game, your sister's already dead. Your parents and your sister died in a protest, which set Faith, the protagonist, on her outside the law lifestyle. She's a runner. Now, in the future City of Glass, runners are necessary because all media and all communications are heavily censored. You'll employ a runner to take your hippie, free-will espousing propaganda to your unwashed friends for a fixed price. So the game sees you in the first person, running and jumping across various rooftops. Sometimes there's a time limit, as you can see here. Sometimes you've got to deliver a parcel. Sometimes you've got to deliver it without being seen, or you've got to deliver it without it breaking. So that means you can only do soft landings, which is quite fun. It's an extra challenge to it. Now you'll notice there are some red objects on the screen. This is called runner vision, and these are supposed to guide you as to where you're supposed to go. Now, in this game, they're deliberately misleading, which makes sense, because if you just followed the red objects to where you're going, the game would essentially be the one giant QTE. So the routes that the red objects guide you towards are often circuitous, which means you have to find your own, which is where the fun and the genius lies of the time trial sections. Finding your own route, ignoring, deliberately eschewing runner vision, and finding a nice tight line for yourself. The first game was linear in that all the stages were laid out for you, so the runner vision actually was much more efficient because it had to be, because you had a very clear line from A to B. There were some shortcuts you could make, but fundamentally the route you were given was the route you took. Because this game is open world now, there's a much more reliance on you finding your own route, which is a lot of fun. It's something that I personally enjoyed very much. There are some collectibles. You've got to find secret bags. You've got to find little glowy orb things, which will do nothing in the end, actually. All these power-ups, all these pick-em-ups add to your XP meter, which you can then use to buy upgrades. Now, the upgrade system is a bit weird, and it feels a bit tacked on and unnecessary. But, it's nice. It's nice to have something else to work towards. A reason to collect all these security chips and all these other pick-em-ups that are in the game. It's not all rooftops. As you can see now, we're underground, running through the bowels of the earth. And it's interesting how where you are, as in above sea level, is where you are in the story. Like, if you look at your classic creative writing diagram here, you've got exposition, rising action, tragedy, hero's lowest point, escalation, and the climax, and then resolution. Now, this is mirrored. Wink, wink. See what I did there? This is mirrored in the game itself. What happens in the game? So you're released at ground level. You go up to rooftops. You go down into the maintenance tunnels and into Kingdom, where the character's at her lowest point, and she becomes emboldened and takes her fight back to the enemy, climbs up the rooftops to the shard, where the game ends. And this is the shard. It's a very beautiful place to be. It's the tallest point in the city, and it's where the main conspiracy is being orchestrated. Now, you can see here I'm engaging in what can, optimistically be called combat. Now, first-person combat is largely horrible, except for Condemned Criminal Origins, which is actually really, really good first-person combat. It's a bold choice because it was so widely hated in the first game. Like, no one said, this is good, let's have more of this. And I have to say, there is probably more combat in this one. But it's never a challenge. Like, look, I'm like a 30-kilogram petite Eurasian girl, and I just kicked 12, maybe, or so, 12 guys in the face. They had guns and like little shock gauntlet things. Yeah, so back to the game. Here you can see another. This is a really good one. See, the good thing about this game is, right? You know when you go bowling, and you bowl and you let go and you know it's a strike, because it just clicked. It just flowed, like the force was was flowing through you, and you let go at the right time. It had just the right amount of spin. You clip that first pin to the right, and it just took them all down. It's like this. Like, you can tell when you're having a good run. It all comes together, and it's almost zen. You could argue the game is a little bit light on content. There's only 15 main story missions, and a whole boatload of little side missions, like the delivery quests I mentioned before. The upgrade system's a bit weird, and it's not necessary. In fact, all the good upgrades you get given as the story progresses anyway. The ones you do unlock yourself are just used to further find other hidden objects within the game. You unlock some skills which you have to use to find the more well-hidden objects in the game. It's a gem. I can't recommend it enough. I loved it. I had fun every second I played it. Again, it's not had the accolade it deserves. It actually got marked down from the first game. It wasn't as well received as the first game, which is utterly bizarre because it only expands on it. I can recommend it enough. I mean, it might even be my game of the year so far. But then again, what's not saying much, is it? This year's been less than stellar. So yeah, great.